Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a number of surveys that I've seen, or claims, but also videos on TikTok and that sort of stuff, where millennials are complaining that they can't be happy because they don't have enough money to be happy. Some even suggesting that only if they're rich are they able to be happy, but that's indicates a misunderstanding of how happiness is acquired. But so let's have a look at their claims. I think their claims have got good foundation. So I'm pretty much, I'm not about the rich bit, but that they don't have enough money. Their opportunities are so bleak in the globalized world. So all these kids that are running around desperately supporting mass migration and gay, lesbian this and feminist that are really just guaranteeing the absolute destruction of their life prospects, the crushing of their life prospects. And they're out there, climate change, that sort of thing, and they're out there aggressively supporting all the things that are destroying it and eradicating their own future. And fuck, can you even believe it? And this is a huge opportunity for the right or just the non-globalists to go in and say, hey, you can go in that climate change march if you want, but you're absolutely screwing your own future in doing so. So have a think about that next time you want to wave a placard. And the non-globalists could be going all through the universities and so on, really doing that, saying, okay, here's your life prospects as things stand. This is the future you have. Now, if you want to go out there and wave placards to fuck it even further, go right ahead. But let's come back to the thing about millennials claiming they've got no future. Now, there's a few millennials living sort of in the area that I'm in, still living with their folks, and they sort of are not, that they believe their future prospects are quite dim and are quite bleak, and without inheritance, inheriting their parents' house, that's without that, they'd be totally fucked. And so really they're just hanging around waiting for their parents to die so they can get the money from the house and so on. Now, this also means, by the way, they're not really trying that hard, but nonetheless, there's an argument the millennials are all lazy. I don't buy. Nonetheless, there's an argument the millennials are all lazy. I don't buy that. There are many lazy millennials, by the way, but the world's going to end because of climate change, Nazis and the patriarchy running everything. Why should we even try? Because the world is so fucked and full of Nazis, and so this is certainly a very big issue, and totally different, by the way, to the attitudes that I remember that I had and the people around me back in the day. We had this great optimism that we could really do something positive. We could find the cure for cancer. We could do things more efficiently. We could find people with natural talent and put them in a position in the workplace, put them in a position where they could do something. We were always on the lookout for trying to help somebody. That's interesting. I'll put you in touch with so-and-so and these sorts of things to try and, we could make the world a better place by making it more efficient, by, again, finding the cure for cancer and so on. And we had that view, and we wanted to improve us, improve our minds and improve our abilities, improve our skills and capabilities and get ahead and this sort of thing. And that's just not, I just don't see that around. I'm sure there are people around who do, but it seemed that everybody around me was doing it. Well, not everybody, but many people were back in the day. But today I find that much harder. You struggle to find it anywhere now. Again, I imagine it must be there. It's just very difficult to find, whereas it was kind of everywhere when I was a millennial or in that age bracket. So there's been a number of change, but there weren't these gloom and doom people running around. There was the nuclear war possibility, but I'm not sure how many people really took that seriously. But there was this situation of there's so much gloom that's pushed on kids. Nazis are in control, climate change, end of the world, and so you can imagine that they would have a very fatalistic view. Well, why should I build and invest in the future when the world's going to end tomorrow. So that mentality, I'm sure, is there. But coming to the more practical aspects, that millennials claim they just don't have enough money. And I would agree with that. But there's been some huge change. For example, petrol or gasoline in the American jargon was certainly when I was, when I first got a motor vehicle, was 40 cents a gallon. Now today it's what are we looking at? $9.50 a gallon. I'm having to do some mathematics in my head here, but let's say $9.50 a gallon. So it's roughly 95 times more expensive. It was 40 cents and 10, 3, 20, 35 times whatever more expensive today than it was back then. Now wages have gone up by, depending on whose numbers when you use, say 11 times, 12 times if you want to be generous. So petrol has gone up at 3 times the rate, similar to the appreciation in real estate, by the way, gone up 3 times the rate of wages. So if it was quite cheap to jump in your car or other form of transport, motorbike. A lot of us had motorbikes back then, and go and catch up with your buddies or meet somewhere, and the round trip could cost you less than $1. Now, just like if I want to go to, say, the nearest major shopping centre from where I live, I mean there's other shops, but the major shopping centre, it's about $15 in petrol to just in petrol to do that trip. $15 just to go to the fucking shopping centre. Now, say a standard small beer at a pub, or again in the American parlance, a cocktail lounge or something, there was you'd get it was 20 cents for the entry level beer, on tap beer, and that same thing now it's $6. Now some of these, by the way, aren't just price inflation. Some of these are government taxes, so it's not all down to just price inflation. There's government taxes mixed in there. So, so again, the alcohol is 26, 27 times more expensive than it was back then. But again, 2.5 times more expensive in purchasing power terms. We used to be able to afford to go to nightclubs and buy drinks there, when we young guys, meeting chicks, all that sort of stuff that young guys do, that millennial age people do, and that was fairly cheap. Now they want sort of pretty serious money on the door to get in, and the drinks are like over the top expensive, so people can't afford to do that. So traveling, alcohol, those sorts of things, even coffee, like you want to get a cup of coffee in a local cafe, they want fucking $5 for that. So really the cost of socializing and going out and that sort of thing is much more expensive than it was. And the job opportunities and the money that millennials get paid, I think less, well, I think they are, it's a fact, less than they were. So if you look at the average wage paid to millennials, then you look at, you take tax and all that sort of stuff out, and retirement, superannuation, you take all that out of the paycheck and see what's left, and you'd struggle to even pay the rent on a 1-bedroom apartment. So you can't live independently. Now, some of the millennials, that I'm aware of, and some of the parents sort of complain about this, is when they go out to rent, so they want to go rent their own apartment, they want to live independently, they want to rent their own, they're not prepared to rent something that's maybe in a slightly run-down state, or where the kitchen's 25 years old or something like. They want the latest the latest kitchens and bathrooms, and they want new this and they don't want to buy furniture in things like garage sales or second-hand shops or opportunity shops. They don't want to do that. They want all brand spanking new and shiny and all that. So they're not doing themselves any favors on that side. But even if that were taken out, it's still even in a one bedroom. Like if you want to get anything anywhere near the downtown of the city, in say Sydney or even Melbourne, for example, you'd have to pay 90+% of your paycheck would just go on the rent. That's before you furnish the place or before you're running a motor vehicle or even if you're paying for public transport. Just if you're in an outer suburb, you can save money on rent. You get a cheaper rent, not hugely cheaper, but cheaper, and you could possibly just manage that. But then if you have to commute to the city or to the inner suburbs, you'd still be paying somewhere in the region of $100 a week in public transport. So you'd still be struggling there. So the reality is that they can't afford it. So they're living at home with their folks. Now, unless there's like a little sort of, a little apartment in the backyard that your folks are set up for you. But if it's just within the house, then you kind of don't have a whole lot of privacy, and you've got to put up with all the other members of the family and other people and that sort of thing. It's hard to bring home a boyfriend or a girlfriend and get horizontal or even do a bit of necking or something like that. So kind of that's difficult and complicated. So you better hope that you're pretty short and you can do it in the back seat of someone's car that you borrow. And when you look at the wider sort of situation, there's your social life is severely restricted on just pure logistical grounds. You've got no independence or privacy, and on financial grounds, you can't afford to go out. If you look at, even if you had a couple of beers at the local, the local watering hole, you'd still be burning $70-$80 a week just on that. Now, if you live with great economy, you have a cheaper apartment, you furnish it with stuff that you can pick up at, say, garage sales. You can buy, say, like you can buy there's some people down the road doing a garage sale, and I dropped in to have a little look, see what they were doing, and they had like a small sort of kitchen dining room type table with, I think, four chairs. Good enough. It wasn't brand spanking new, but it was good enough. And they were prepared to accept $5 for the lot. I mean, why not? Gee. So you can furnish a place quite cheaply. It just won't be with new stuff, but it will be with something that's functional and usable and so on. So it could be done, but you'd have to live very economically. Like there's no buying your lunch when you go to work. You'd have to cut your own sandwiches. You can't buy coffee at the low. You've got to maybe make the coffee in your place and then take it to put it in a flask and take it to work or something like that. You have to look at every situation on the basis of economy, and you might just be able to squeeze by. But certainly millennials I'm aware of. So why should I have to squeeze by? Why should I have to make it to the end of the week, and I'm only $1 or $2 can make a difference to if I survive the week, and why should I live that way? Well, why can't I live a life of greater abundance? And okay, let's look at that question. Why can't you live a life of abundance? Well, it's because you've gone along with mass migration. You think it's a great virtuous thing. You've gone along with feminism and equal outcomes. You've gone along with affirmative action. You've gone along with draconian climate change policy. You've gone along with all these things and seriously support. Not that your teachers haven't encouraged you to do that; they have, but you've gone along with all that, and you've voted for governments and so on that will do these policies, and that is what has destroyed your future. That has destroyed your future. That's what made the paycheck have 65% less purchasing power than it did 50 years ago. So all these women coming into the workforce hasn't created equality. All it's done is reduce the purchasing power of the paycheck. So everyone's back at square one. So now you don't have enough money to go out and socialise. You can't take a girl out on a date unless it's to a takeout food, some shitty takeout food. You can't do anything like this. You can barely afford to see a movie more than once every 6 weeks. So you're severely limited in your purchasing power, which is limiting your social life possibilities. You can't even afford to move out of your parents' home when you're fucking 25 years old. And 50 years ago, a 25-year-old would already be married with 1 or 2 children. So this is the difference. And so I sympathise with millennials, on one side, their stupidity and their gullibility, but also the reality of their future is fucked, absolutely fucked. And the more and more mass migrants they bring in, the more and more the GDP per capita in the West is being diluted and diluted and diluted. So that I think in another 20 years, there will be no option for anybody, other than the wealthier, 1 or 2% or something. There will be no option for anybody other than to live multi-generationally and communally. You'll have to pass your house on to the next generation. They'll live there, and then when you die, they get the house. That sort of thing. And if death duties and inheritance taxes come in, and I strongly believe they will, as governments desperately clamber for more money, then even that's going to disappear. But communal living is really the only option, given the resources, as in the incomes you can bring into the house. That one income isn't enough. 2 incomes is barely enough at a stretch. And really, you need 3 adult incomes coming into, this assumes average wage, 3 adult incomes coming into even a modest household in order to make ends meet with any sort of comfort and any sort of latitude. Like if one person loses their job or gets sick or something like that, the 2 incomes are just enough to get by until the third person comes back online again in terms of an income. And people are going to have to be prepared to do any job. It's not a case you've got a career or a vocation, or I'm qualified in such and such, and that's what I'm going to do. I only want a job, and it's not. If the only job you can get is sweeping the street or flipping burgers, that's how it's going to have to be. So I see there's going to be there already is, but I see these changes will be utterly unless things drastically change. That's how it's going to be. So what can change this very bleak, and it is bleak, by the way, this very bleak scenario. So I sympathise with millennials. What can change that? Well, an immediate halt to absolute immediate halt to mass migration. Only highly skilled people that speak the language and are needed. 3 boxes you have to tick: internationally recognised skills and experience. You speak the local language, to college level. And there's a need for those skills within the economy, a real need, not an invented need of we need burger flippers or something. That's bullshit. So those 3 things. Now that would mean in a place like Australia, you'd be having a migrant intake of somewhere between 10 to 20,000 people a year, max 10 to 20,000 people a year would be coming in who meet that criteria. And then start putting measures in place so that people will self-deport and get out. Then you would start doing treating residential real estate as an investment class for the big financial end of town to play with as a toy, as a plaything. That has to come to an end. This idea of equity outcomes and affirmative action has to stop straight away, and merit has to be introduced not only at school and university but also in the workplace. Now, if you instituted those things, you would very quickly see the corrections come into place that would restore the purchasing power of the paycheck and restore the possibility of a bright future for hardworking or enterprising or above average intelligent students. Would there be winners and losers of this? Of course there would be, but right now everyone's a fucking loser, and that's a disaster. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.